It's Titans Talk here on News Channel 5 Plus. Glad you're with us this evening as we preview the rest of the Titans season as they come off their Week 4 bye week. Jim Wyatt of TitansOnline.com with us here for another segment coming up. Ken Wisenhunt, we'll hear from him as he previews the game against the Buffalo Bills, plus rookie quarterback Marcus Mariota. Jim, is this the earliest bye week you've covered?
You know, as I was thinking about that the other day, I remember the 2001 season that was interrupted, regrettably by the events of 9/11. That season. I think the Titans had an early bye week. I remember they had, the game canceled because of 9/11, and I think they played another week, and they had another bye week. I think they had 2 bye weeks within the first month of the season. That's the earliest I can ever remember. It's different. I mean, you don't. It's nice to have and nice to get refreshed. And I think from a timing standpoint, probably it's not terrible for this team because you get Jason McCourty back, and I think certainly Chance Warmack benefits from it, and I think Sammy Hill benefits from it. And but as the season goes on and you get through October and November, you're probably going to wish you had one then to just let your body heal up and let other guys recover. So it makes it more challenging having 13 in a row, that's for sure.
Looking at the first quarter of the season, we did this a little bit last night on Sports Central, where we kind of went through the good and the bad of the offense and the defense. And taking Marcus Mariota out of the obvious great category for their offense right now, would Kendall Wright be the first name that comes to mind as guys you would point to that have started out strong?
He would be, yeah. And it's funny if watching him, throughout the offseason and listening to him and his approach. I mean, he really got serious this offseason and wanted to make sure he was in the absolute right place, exactly in the right place, where he could have a quarterback that would trust him. And I think he worked really hard on doing that this offseason. It looked great. It looked great throughout the offseason, looked really good in the preseason, and it's been really effective. Yeah, he'd be number one for sure for me. I actually did something, just the best 3, one on offense, one on defense, one on special teams, and I almost felt guilty picking Mariota because it was such a gimme. Yeah. And but Kendall Wright would have been my offensive guy through the first 3 games for sure.
12 catches, 2 touchdowns for Wright. He nearly had 100 yards twice. He did reach 100 yards on 4 catches against Tampa Bay, and then had 95, I believe, against Indy. But he's off to a great start. And Mariota's spreading the ball around nicely to a bunch of different receivers. The bad, last night I pointed to the offensive line issues. You had the stat at Titans Online that said they're on pace for, 64 sacks if they keep up at this rate. I doubt they'll get there, but that's certainly an alarming number.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, part of it is, I think some of the shuffling they've had to do with Chance Warmack out of the lineup and moving guys around. But Jeremiah Patasi's had his moments where he struggled, and there's no question that game in Cleveland he was exposed, his technique and maybe just his readiness level. I think the expectation is, the hope is that he will settle down and be better moving forward. But there have been some issues up front. It's not all on him. I mean, to give up 12 sacks in 3 games and 7 in 1 game alone is just can't happen. And Buffalo coming in here, even though they don't have a ton of sacks, they're big and physical up front. I mean, if they're not ready Sunday, it could be it's a dangerous game for your quarterback.
For the defense, the pass rush has been as advertised. People will look at the sack numbers and see where they stack up across the league. But if you just notice guys being around the quarterback and affecting plays, Derek Morgan and Brian Orakpo have really filled in. Orakpo in particular. Morgan has continued solid play off of last year into this year. They've made quite the duo so far.
There's no doubt, and I think you're starting to see, Jarrell Casey benefit a little bit from the attention they're getting as well, because he really was disruptive against Indy. But Morgan is really, and he was due. I mean, he's had some bad luck over the last couple of years. He's always around the quarterback, and he always let the team in quarterback pressures. But it just seemed like quarterback was either getting the ball out, it just he got there, or a guy was able to wrestle free at the last minute. He's now able to find some success in getting the quarterback down. He caused the fumble, against Cleveland as well. I mean, I think he has been the most disruptive and the most noticeable of all the guys so far. That includes Arakpo. I think that's good because Arakpo is going to make plays here for you. But the fact that Morgan's been so consistent is definitely a good sign. Also
good that you mentioned earlier they get Jason McCourty back this week against Buffalo, but I mentioned the bad part of the defense so far. Credit the defense for getting themselves in 3rd and long situations, but there's been a couple of, especially in their 2 losses, plays where they allowed the offense to bail themselves out on 3rd and longs, 3rd and 20s. We saw it against Indianapolis, where I feel like if the DB covering, whether it's Bleedy Ray Wilson, Cody Sensabaugh, or one of the safeties, just turns, Paris Cox, turns to find the football, they end up breaking up a pass, and instead they're left not turning or just simply not being able to find the football, and the receiver ends up making the huge play on a 50-50 ball.
Yeah, and the plays against the Colts just absolutely killed them in those 2 3rd and 20 plays. I mean, the Manziel and the deep balls to Benjamin, that was one thing. That was a quarterback who got the pocket, kept the play alive, and just found a guy. But the ones, against, Indy, I'm throwing my Preston Huff in there as well because you've got to turn around and not let a guy run right by him. So they got to improve in that. I mean, I think safety play, so somebody's got to start making some plays on the back end. I mean, they've got 4 interceptions so far. One of them is Zach Brown. One of them's from DeAndre Mount. Cox and Sensabaugh both have picks. But, I think you want your safeties to step up and make a play. And certainly you want your corners to get even more hands on the football. And there have been some balls in the air, no doubt. So that's something that's going to have to improve here down the stretch, giving up deep plays and just making some more plays on the football.
Indianapolis somehow won that game against Jacksonville yesterday. Jacksonville showed they're still Jacksonville, and Houston is off to just a terrible start. How open is this division right now going into what will be the 2nd quarter of the season?
I think it's wide open, man. It's funny, I know Indianapolis and Houston play Thursday night, and you're probably somewhat tempted to just go ahead and have Houston buried here early on. But I think if you're a Titans fan, I think inside the organization you gotta want to see the Colts give one back after winning a couple that maybe they shouldn't have won the last couple of weeks. I mean, Indy could be 0-4 right now. Instead, they're sitting at 2-2. I don't have their schedule right in front of me, but I know they've got New England coming up. I know they got Atlanta, and they've got Carolina. They've got they've got some tough games coming up, where I think there's a chance if the Titans play well and win some of these winnable games coming up, that it's going to be an interesting second half of the season. And Jacksonville, I just can't see them being a contender. And the way Houston's played and the issues they've got at the quarterback position, they're going to have a hard time being the team that goes neck and neck with the Colts. So I think the Titans have as good a chance as anybody in the division to win. And I'm not saying this division, the winner's going to go 11-5 or 10-6. I mean, this is a division that could be had with potentially 8-9 wins based on the way things look right now. And so I think it's huge for the Titans to get some of these wins, especially with these 3 home games coming up.
Follow Jim on Twitter at @JWyattSports, and of course check him out on a daily basis, TitansOnline.com. Jim, always a pleasure catching up with you, man. Hopefully I'll see you soon, definitely this weekend at Nissan Stadium as the Titans host the Bills.
Sounds good. Have a good night, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Jim Wyatt, great reporter, even better guy right there. Again, follow him on Twitter at @JWyattSports. Coming up, Ken Wisenhunt previews the upcoming matchup against Buffalo. They're coming off of a loss to the New York Giants. Plus later, rookie quarterback Marcus Mariota. Stick with us here on Titans Talk.